Well, it was suggested to me that maybe I should make a video talking about turning 65 and what you have to go through to sign up for Medicare, okay, with Social Security. Um, it was a very confusing and difficult task and was very stressful. So I'm trying to create a video to discuss it, and if it helps you a little, if you would please subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and if you could, become a member and support the channel. Alright, so this is something we all have to face, and when you turn 65, I believe it's kind of irregardless whether you're retired or not, you should look into this. Unless you're still working, you have to sign up for Medicare. Alright? And if you don't, or don't know what you're doing, or don't know how to go about it, if you were late, there are financial penalties that will be applied to your Social Security payment every month, and they're for life. Okay, and I'll go over that later. Now, first off, I'm not trying to sell you insurance or anything like that. I'm not an expert on this. This came on to me, and I'm going to tell you what happened. It was very confusing, very frustrating, and it was difficult for me to get the information I needed to make the proper choices. But first off, there is one good part of all of this, alright, and it starts with they give you 3 months before. So say you were born, whatever month. With me it was August. So 3 months before my birthday, the end of the month, and 3 months afterwards, I could sign up and get this all confirmed before any of the penalties fall into place, or being late, signing up late. So they give you 7 months to do this, and you're probably going to need all 7 months. So I believe, I did it like in the first 2 months before my birthday month, because it took me 2 months to figure out what to do. Okay. And the insurance companies, because I do have health insurance, I'm under my wife's health insurance. The insurance provider didn't really give me concrete answers and like I said, and everyone is different. Everyone's situation is different, okay? So, I'm not trying to sell you any insurance or anything like that, but I'm going to warn you also about some of the chicanery that goes on with these insurance salesmen and that. Alright, so now you got 3 months before, so start looking into this well in advance. And there are, actually, if you go on YouTube, there are all kinds of videos that just simply explain to you how this all works. And basically I just reviewed one. There's 4 parts of Social Security. Part A, which is your hospitalization. This one has no payments involved with it. So when you sign up for Part A, okay, and that's like one of the mandatory ones, you can sign up for Part A, and they're not going to take an automatic payment or premium out of your Social Security check. So you got Part A. Part B is your coverage for doctors, tests, all that other stuff. There's a deductible, and then they pay 80%, so you're responsible for the 20%. Now the cost of that, if you sign up for Part B, and what do I have it here? It's $202.90 a month, okay, for Part B. Now, Part C is Medicare Advantage program. Now, once my wife retires in that part of her benefits, and we are covered after she retires, which a lot of places don't do that anymore, I think we're going to go to some sort of a Medicare Advantage plan, and that's where a commercial, there's something like that. And I think once you retire, you can also, through an insurance broker or something, get something like that. And then there is Part D, which is your prescription drugs. Now, whether you take them or not, or whatever, I'm not quite sure on that, because I'm still under my wife's insurance and this is covered. Now, what happens if you don't sign up in the period and you do not, see, this is the confusing part. If you do not have, and they call that here, do not have other credible employer or union coverage at the time. And this is the key word, credible. I mean, and I do have that coverage because I am a dependent under my wife's insurance, and she works for a large enough organization. I say it's, if they got more than 20 employees or something, then that's credible coverage. Now the thing is, though, her employer will issue me a document for every year, okay, that I am covered. It's proof of coverage. So when she retires and we more or less go on the whole system not to get the penalties, okay, once we get older, we have to have these documentations and that. And like I said, there's so many options and so many things out there, and you have to be wary, because like when they sent me, it was like 4 months before I had to sign up. So Social Security sent me the cards, and on the card, when I opened the thing up, there was my Part A and Part B. And if I did not want Part B, or I refused it, I had to sign the card, fill it out, mail it back to them, because the card would have Part A, Part B, and they had to reissue me a new card, a paper card, that just said Part A and the account number. Okay. I almost signed it and took the Part B too, but after a very difficult time of trying to figure out what this credible coverage was, and because if you go Social Security's website, they explain to you all this, and then there's a sentence: if you have credible coverage, you can delay without penalty signing up for B and D. Okay? And it's quite confusing. And there's all types of supplemental insurance and everything, because what you could do, say you went with Part A, Part B, okay, and Part A, for most people, there's no payment involved out of your Social Security, and these come out of your Social Security monthly check. Part B is right now, I believe, and this changes, and that's another thing. I found out they're changing the system next year. There's going to be changes to the Social Security and the Medicare. But if I took Part B, I'd have to pay them $202.90 a month out of my check. Okay? Now, what happens is if you delay this and don't sign up in the 7 months, and you don't have coverage, say a year or 2 years later, okay, you say, oh gee, I need Part B coverage, all right, there are fines, and they are for life, okay? So for every year it's 10% more to that $202. So as an example was written here, say you delay 2 years, that's going to be 20%. So 20% of that payment is $40.58. So then if you do sign up for Part B and want the coverage 2 years later when you're 57, then that payment goes from the $202.90, they take $243.48, and that 20% penalty stays with you for your life. It does not come down, it does not get lowered. Okay, so basically you're kind of, if you mess up, they're charging you more and paying you less in your monthly payment. Okay, now Part D is another weird one. Part D, if you pay for it, it's $38.99 or something. Okay, and what they do is for each month, it's 1% per month. Okay, if you don't sign up for B, that's 10% over a year. And then see, if you miss B, you have to wait for the enrollment window. A year later, there's, I think at the beginning of the year, you can make your changes to, the insurance, that your supplemental insurance and that, or to enroll. There's an enrollment period. So that's something else to be aware of. So the Part D, 1% a month. So that's $38.94 if you go for 12 months or a year. Say, okay, I messed up, I should have went, I'm going to enroll. That would add to the $38, $4.68. So it would be 40 some odd dollars. Okay, say you went 3 years without signing up, then that would add $14.04 a month to that payment on top of the $38.94. Okay, that is what I was worried about. Now, when I called my wife's insurance company, I have the card, and they say your account, your benefits, and I tried to call and ask. And they said, are you the primary person on the insurance? And I said, no. And they flat out told me, we can't answer any of your questions unless you get your wife on the phone, she verifies who she is and all this other stuff, and then have her ask the questions, or then if she states that she is allowing you access to the insurance information, then they'd answer my questions. So I said, look, I'm going to stay on her insurance. She's still working. What do I do here? I'm asking the insurance company, what do I do here without, creating a financial thing of being penalized? And they go, as long as you have credible insurance. I said, okay, is this insurance considered credible insurance? And they go, is there more than 20 people or something like that working in her place of work? And I said, yes. And then that's it. They stopped speaking. So I'm like, aren't you confirming? Because this whole call is recorded, and they give you a number for this claim or something, that if you have to come back, you give them the number of this call or this claim, and then they have that verbal recording there. And so halfway through I said, all right, I want to be reassured here, because I don't need to figure I fix this and then accumulate these penalties to where, I'm losing half of my Social Security check, okay, in penalties. So she goes, well, and I asked the same question. And again, to confuse the hell out of you, it's just, there's more than 30 people. And I say yes, and that's it. They stop talking. So it's like they don't confirm verbally is there more than 30 people? And I say, yes, there is. So I would say then the person should say, then this is a qualifying insurance. They don't say that. They just confuse you even more in the way that they discuss this with you. And another thing, even though I'm deferred, the employer does issue a letter, and I have to every year have that letter saying that I, and identifying who I am, has had their coverage and that. So then when we both retire and we both have to go, I have proof that I had coverage, acceptable coverage, in both the Part D and Part B of this. Okay, so that's my warning. You have to figure this out for yourself because everyone's situation is different. If you are retiring and you do not have medical coverage from a union, or if your company doesn't give you when you retire a plan, you're going to have to try to figure out what's best for you. Okay? And it is very complex, and I suggest you even start long before you're going to go through this and make sure and double check your information. Because I know several people that have just ignored signing up for the Part B. Then when they had to use insurance, they went and signed up for it and then found that they had a penalty, and that penalty is permanent. Okay? I know two people that there was some confusion, and my neighbor was one of them. He bought some sort of insurance, gap insurance, to cover the 20% that Part B does not cover, okay, after the deductibles and all this other stuff. So he thought if he was buying this insurance was replacing the Part B, and he didn't sign up for it. But what he bought is what's called gap insurance, and he goes, the salesman confused the hell out of him. And what the gap insurance covers is the 20% that Medicare doesn't pay. And he said, why am I going to pay, for Part B, and why am I going to pay the second insurance? And until he had to go to the hospital, and it was almost 2 years later after he retired, that he found out that they were only paying that 20%. And not the rest of it. He wasn't covered at all because he didn't have Part B. And, then again, he had to file for whatever he did to straighten it out. But if he went and enrolled in Part B 2 years, there's another big chunk of money coming out of your monthly check. So that's what I'm warning you about. And that's what I want to get in about the salesman. I started getting phone calls and letters and things from all kinds of different insurance companies, and you have to be careful with them. Don't ever give any of your information out on the phone, like your Social Security, because what they'll do, these unscrupulous people, if they get your personal information, they will sign you up for an insurance policy. Okay, so be careful about that. That's another thing. And then, just like the little cardboard card they sent me with my Part A card, they'll send you a similar card that says urgent, open this about your Social Security benefits, and you open it up and it says you have a telephone appointment on this date at this time to call. And I'm looking, and it's not Social Security. Okay, it's an insurance company. And it's like they're putting on there, this is urgent, you have to call about your benefits and all this other stuff. And this is how they lure you in on the phone and just confuse the hell out of you, try to get all your personal information, and then they'll sign you up on an insurance policy. So watch out with that. Because on my wife's insurance, when she retires, her employer gives her, as a retiree, and I'm included also, and I've been on her insurance for years, we get a Medicare Advantage plan that is paid for by them or whatever as a benefit. We have to pay so much a month for that. And they warn you on there, do not answer a phone call about insurance, because if you give them your personal information and unknowingly sign up for another insurance policy, even though you didn't kind of agree, but they kind of conned you into it and signed you up, if that happens, you will lose this benefit, this retirement benefit, for life. There is no, oh, I made a mistake, I didn't know these people kind of dishonestly signed me up for an insurance policy, and that, no, you lose your employer's benefit for life for that. And I mean, that's really scary, and that's kind of why I'm making this video, trying to get this out to warn people that you have to be very careful. You know, I'm not saying that you're not savvy enough or nothing. I can pretty much understand things. I can read and, keep it in context. But the way everything from with Social Security, with all these different options and all these different things available, it is overwhelming and highly confusing. And if you make a mistake or somebody gives you the wrong information, okay, and you're not aware of what's going on, it can cost you financially. All right, and that's why I'm making this video, to tell you, get prepared, find, and I don't know, your insurance advisors and that, if you go to anybody that's an advisor, they're going to want to sell you something. So you kind of have to figure out what you got in terms of benefits and what, they're selling you, and understand the types of insurance. Because like my neighbor, he thought buying that gap insurance, okay, was all the insurance he needed. He was confused on what it was. What he should have done is gotten Part C, the Medicare Advantage or something. I haven't even looked into that. I don't quite understand that. But that's like a package deal or something. I'm not quite sure. That's another adventure for me further down the road to straighten all that out. But that's the message I'm trying to get through with making this video. And, I hope it helps some people and that. But my advice is, start long before the deadlines. And it's going to be difficult to figure out what exactly is going on. And every situation is different for, the individual. What you have, and that's what makes it all confusing and that. But be aware, take your time, make sure you get solid advice from somebody. There are a ton of videos out on YouTube that do explain it. They explain it well. I just watch one to refresh it and get the penalty thing down, and it confused me again on stuff. It's just the way they make it. And I believe it's unfair the government does this to us. And it's unfair that these insurance companies and all these other people, make it difficult. And you really can't trust them that, well, unless you have somebody you've worked with for a very long time that can give you solid advice on what to do in terms of insurance. All right. Thank you, and stay tuned.